All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Michael with StrikeHold, and I've got Bobby Williams here with me, the owner and CEO of StrikeHold, who is going to talk to us a little bit about this amazing, unique product and why you should have it in your business. So thank you, Bobby, for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
always happy to talk about strike holders and just never run out of anything good to say about it.
Yep.
And you know, if you want to really hear a lot of things good about it, talk to our customers. But everybody loves it. It's sometimes their comments are so positive that you wonder about, wow, is it really that good? But it does just everything that we claim in an outstanding fashion. I don't think I've ever had a product in my whole sales career that hit every single item and knocked the ball out of the park every time. I don't care if you're talking about corrosion control, cleaning off crud off of metal, cleaning firearms, whatever you're cleaning. It just strips it down. All the grease and crud comes out. The lead is dissolved, not so much dissolved as it is displaced. It just is destabilized from the metal and it falls out. Same with plastic. If people clean their shotguns from sporting clays, they said that the plastic product, that builds up on the inside of the barrel from hundreds of shots, just falls out. They'll set their gun up vertically, and over a period of days, if they come back and there's this residue laying there where this plastic has just been destabilized and falls out. But the really big, and of course, the product was developed for firearms in the military, and it's been essentially a military secret for the past 20 years. We sell it even now to special forces, to SEAL teams and Delta Force and so on in the United States and a few other countries. And they use it, but they don't talk about it. You don't see a show on TV where the Navy SEALs are talking about products they use and things. Okay, you don't know these folks when you walk by them in the mall. Um, so it has been a very closely guarded piece of intelligence, even if it wasn't a secret. So nowadays, with selling to the general public, we just look at it and say, okay, what does this stuff do? Okay, number one thing in my view is it stops corrosion on contact. If you got something that's rusting or corroding in any manner and you put strike hold on it, it stops just like that. It penetrates through it, even if it's wet. It'll penetrate through the rust and corrosion into the good metal, and it forms a barrier there that is impenetrable. The necessary things are moisture and oxygen to do a corrosion. If you can keep moisture and oxygen from contacting the good metal, corrosion can't happen. That's exactly the mechanism here. We tend to think of technology as being electronics and computers and AI and all this, but let me tell you, chemistry is a big technological area too. Without high-tech chemistry, we wouldn't have a high-tech world. And this StrikeHold product is an excellent example of that. It wasn't an accident that this product produces the results it does. It was engineered to be a film forming product that is impenetrable, that it's heavier than water, so it goes through water into the metal. It has uh, properties of electrical systems that are called dielectric, which basically dielectric means that it stops water or any other moisture from coming in contact with electrical circuits. So, A, you don't get any weepage of the power out into the environment, and B, there's no corrosion on any of these electrical components because the air and the water can't get to them. It's excellent, excellent. We use a lot with electric membership corporations, which are utilities. We use it a lot in. There's some people using it in the pulp and paper industry. It's a very corrosive environment. They spray it on electronic devices in very high humidity, high electrolyte kind of scenarios, so that none of these things get onto the circuit boards and cause corrosion, which causes failures. The same lubrication was an issue for the military because weapons need to be lubricated, but doing it with any kind of lubrication that is damp or wet, like oil, causes fouling with all the dust and dirt and vegetative matter and everything else that might come into contact with a sophisticated firearm. So the product was engineered to have synthetic resins in it that are akin to what you might think of as synthetic additives in your oil in your automobile. They're polymers and they're dry. They go on in that wet spray, but when the solvent phase dries away, those billions of little ball bearings of synthetic material are still on the surface of the metal and provide all of the lubrication that you need. I've had war fighters tell me that they were using 50 caliber machine guns, and the only thing that they could use on it that would keep them reliably running was StrikeHold, because it could even be sprayed on there during combat, because these weapons get very hot, and they you can't just put anything on there. But StrikeHold's not flammable, so they'll spray down the hot metal with the StrikeHold product in action. And I know at least one told me in Fallujah they were the only gun truck still operating at the end of a firefight out of three that went in there. I mean, you got to feel good about that as a manufacturer. We take no credit for what the Marines did there, except that we provide a product that helped them uh, continue to use their tools, what they needed to do in their job. And it goes on and on. We have so many uses for these products: trucks, campers. I see air conditioning here. Air conditioning anywhere close to salt water has a very limited life, and that would go for commercial refrigeration as well, because the salt content in the air is high enough that when it's sucked through these condenser units, it just corrodes them away. Typically, a beach house system is going to last about 5 years. Well, it should last 15, and they're very expensive. Not to mention the failures and breakdowns in that last few years of process because of the corrosion. Spent a lot of money on them, then you spent a lot of money replacing them. All of it could have been saved by using our StrikeHold, our Force 5 HVAC product on these units from day one. You can even add it on later on if you didn't put it on initially. Go ahead and put it on anyway, and spray the outside of the housing. It'll look like it's brand new 10 years down the road. It just doesn't call it keeps everything looking great, keeps everything from corroding. It keeps the effects of the environment, the moisture, and the corrosive environment from impacting on any of these items. uh, Down to the simplest things like your pocket knife or your tools in your work shed, or you spray them down with some StrikeHold. And I'm not talking about having them floating on this stuff, just a little spritz here and there. It crawls like crazy. So you spritz a little bit on your tools. It won't matter if they're out in a shed that has, a changing moisture content because of weather and environment and all. They're not going to corrode. And it's exactly the same thing is true for your tools that are power tools. And it doesn't really matter whether they're plug-in 120-volt power tools, AC, or whether they're DC with batteries. All these things are subject to having corrosion issues on the contacts at least, and in the armatures that are the windings in there. That it's just a constant attack on this equipment by the environment. Even what you consider to be a pretty good environment can be tough on tools. Spray StrikeHold in them, give them a little shot with let them, and then run them a little bit, and you won't believe it. You can bury them in water. We do demonstrations. Michael, I know you have them for the tools that we spray StrikeHold in. They're plugged into the wall. The drill's running. You just drop the drill into the water, and it runs underwater just as well as it runs out of the water. The StrikeHold keeps the electrical components from uh, transferring water to the electricity to the water. You can put your fingers in the water and it won't shock you. I don't recommend that, but it does work. We've seen people do it many times. You can't, the older guys used to plug them in, and we got one gentleman in the Netherlands that was standing in a bin of water running a drill in it. So I asked him not to do that anymore, but it really did work. It's not something that we're doing a trick with. And I've had people ask that question. There's no trick to it. Don't do it. Okay. Don't do it. Don't let any kids see you do it. We don't want anybody hurt with this. But when you spray it on the electrical components, they do not put electricity into the water. Uh, there's so much about this product that I said every time I talk to a customer, the hardest thing for me to do is get off the phone with the customer because they just got to tell me about how great this product is, how much they love it. Uh, I've told the story so many times, I'm starting to believe it myself. But there's a lady over in Alabama that runs an antique shop. Her husband used to be a dealer for the older StrikeHold company that had them going out to gun shows. So she calls me up. The first words out of her mouth were, "I don't like the smell." Oh, okay. We don't make perfume, was my response. And she just kind of laughed, and she spent the next 15 minutes telling me how much she loved the StrikeHold, how she had just accidentally used it on her furniture one day when she ran out of whatever she was using to polish the furniture in her antique store, and continues to this day to buy StrikeHold and put it on her antique furniture. We never told her to do that. We never even recommended it. I wouldn't recommend it right now. I don't know what it does to antiques, but she's happy with it. But her initial conversation with me was, "I don't like the smell." That's the only time I've ever had anybody say that. But then she'd spent the next 15 minutes talking about how great it was. We see this over and over and over. At least 2 or 3 times a month, I'll have somebody call me up and tell me, "You're not going to believe what I tried StrikeHold on, and it worked great," and then they tell me the story about it. And it's everything you can think of, from antique pipe organs to, antique pinball machines and, telephone equipment, so many things. I see these floods around the country where all their gear gets flooded, and these electric motors are flooded, and the switch gear and their all their sockets and breaker boxes and everything are just destroyed. With StrikeHold on there, when the water went down, all of it would still work. I know that's a broad claim. I mean, it's still going to be mud, there's still going to be destruction, but the electrical components predominantly will work. We had one gentleman that his boat was sinking. He went to New Jersey, bought this sailboat, was taking it back down to Florida. And he got off of Cape Lookout, North Carolina, and in the evening he was asleep, and water woke him up. He had over 2 feet of water in his boat, and immediately had issues. Right, so he gets all his plumbing going on there and his bilge pumps and everything, and he's calling the Coast Guard. So Coast Guard comes out and determines that yes, you're sinking, and put pumps over in there, pumped his boat out, and they managed to get him towed into a marina and lifted out of the water that morning. And his everything in his boat was soaked with salt water. So he had a mess. He was close to one of our dealers down in that area. I called the dealer and sent him down there with a case of StrikeHold. They went in, they just put it on everything. Okay, everything in there, mechanical or physical, that they could reach. All the engine components. They took out the injectors and sprayed it into the cylinders and so on. Uh, and a week later, maybe 9 days later, he did a video for us that we still have, where he was setting out. He was under power going out of the inlet there in North Carolina, ready to sail on down to Florida. He had to replace a few things. I think one of his radios was shot, and a few things that they didn't have any StrikeHold in them when they got wet and they shorted out. So he did replace a few items, but it was a fraction of the things that he would have had to replace had he not put StrikeHold on those immediately to stop that corrosion problem. Engine worked, no rebuild or anything. He was ready to go. He thought he was looking at a total loss in that boat, and ended up spending just a few $1,000s to get it back in good condition and get it on down to Florida so he could refurbish it and have a new boat. So these things happen over and over again worldwide. We got customers in every part of the world, from the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific to the Arctic. A lot of hunters in Alaska like it because it doesn't freeze. You can put it on your rifles and be out bear hunting with the Kodiaks, and you don't have to worry about getting a second shot because the bolt of your rifle is frozen up. My first recommendation is don't do that. I don't mean don't use the StrikeHold. I mean don't go out there with a bear. But I mean, 11-foot tall bear and you're out there with a rifle, you need your head examined anyway. But this it does work, and the snipers in the NATO sniper practicing here, they have a thing down at Fort Benning for the Army sniper teams competition, and a lot of the NATO countries send people into that too, and we get an invitation to it, go down there to it, and especially the older guys and the retired guys that are back there representing some company or something, talk about it. A lot of them are retired SEAL team people and all in there. Every one of them talks about the strike. I said, "Oh, the strike! Yeah, we use that for everything. We had it all over the boats, and we don't know that. I mean, we're not privy to that until they tell us. But they love the product, and we ship it out on a fairly regular basis to them. Um, we can't prove that because it goes through an exchange to get into the SEAL team guys, but um, it's true. It's the truth, and we're very proud of that. I mean, I'm just proud to be able to contribute in such a small way, and like it or not, it's a critical way. The equipment's got to work, whether it's their outboard motors, their electronics, which they use it on a lot on their electronic gear and everything too, as well as firearms. It goes on everything. Yes, it's used. I see mining on here. We've used it in a number of mines. It's used in solar collection, solar panels. I know one mine used it on all their street lights that were all solar, so they put them on there. The people that do the maintenance for Coast Guard, uh, they call them ants, which are aids to navigation. But yeah, basically you see them out there in the bay. They're the red and green buoys and they frequently have lights on them that blink during the night, and those blinks are a code so that you can look on your gear there and know which one of the lights and what part of the channel that is, so you don't get messed up out there. And almost all of them have solar collectors on them that repower the batteries for the lights at night.
Yeah.
And they seem to be a favorite place for seagulls to roost. And if you got seagulls sitting around on something, you're going to have problems underneath it there because the bird guano gets on everything and it coats the solar cells, which become less efficient. And somebody has to go out there periodically and clean the bird guano off of those aids to navigation. And there are companies that are contracted to go out there and do that. Well, if you spray StrikeHold on there, every time it rains, nothing sticks to that StrikeHold. So when you spray the StrikeHold on there, every time it rains, it washes the bird guano off of the aids to navigation. We're real popular with whoever that poor schmuck is that has to go out there and clean that. And we're real happy with that. But it just keeps everything generating electricity better so that the aids to navigation lasts longer, the batteries last longer, everything else. It's got great things. And you can tell from me yakking about this that I've just talked with so many people. And so if you're a dealer or you're somebody that's in retail and you're thinking about getting on board with StrikeHold and putting that product on your shelf, be ready for this, okay? You're going to be inundated with people talking about how great the product is, and they tried it on something and they can't believe it. It worked just so well, and they'll tell their friends. The best product is one that creeps out there into the marketplace because it works so well that Joe told his buddy Bob, and Bob told his buddy Jim, and they're all using StrikeHold now, and that it has its own spreading mechanism there, and it really does. We have people all the time call up. So we're using it in our manufacturing now. We started out with one of the guys in the shop using it on his guns and his hunting weapons, and then he brought it in and tried it on this, tried it on that, and there doesn't seem to be any limit to the space in that. We sell this product to the Department of Energy in the two facilities in the United States that build, maintain, and decommission nuclear weapons in our stockpile. I can't tell you what they do with it. I know that we ship it to them by the pallet loads, and they use it in that process. For one thing, it's a great penetrant. Number two, anybody that knows anything about nuclear weapons knows that the nuclear stockpiles are very corrosive. So anything that goes into that is a great. Uh, if it's working well, they're going to use it. Okay, and that's what happens with this product. It works when nothing else does. It's heavier than water, which is one of the top things I think about it. It doesn't float off when it gets wet, and it penetrates right through water and goes to work when you need it without you having to go to any other bother. You don't even know it's there when it dries. And to reapply it, you just spray it again. You can't get too much of it on something. It's pretty self-limiting apparently. It drips off or dries off. Whatever you need stays on there, and you go again. Try it. If you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. I don't know if I can make it any simpler than that. I hope I didn't ramble on too much, Michael. You may have to break this up a few times.
No, this is great. This is exactly what we need to know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's versatile, but almost everything we use in our modern life is metal, moving metal parts, plastic to protect it, and StrikeHold is better than any other lubrication I've seen on the market. It's
Yeah,
affordable, made in America.
absolutely. Since man started using metal about 3,000 years ago, he's been faced with the same issue. It rusts. Okay. And if you're using, I don't care what it is, it has some corrosion compound. If you're using iron or steel, it's rust.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that there aren't very many 100-year-old things laying around in your shop. It's not because that hammer wouldn't still work. It's because that hammer rusted up and you can't use it anymore. If you put StrikeHold on it, your great grandchildren will be able to use that same hammer because it didn't rust. And that's the technology that I'm talking about. The 3,000 years, man had to smear some kind of oil or grease or fat or whatever on the metal objects to keep them from rusting. Now you got better technology. Tool of the year right there with the progressive farmer. Yeah, tool of the year.
Yeah.
I'm impressed anyway.
And that's why you go to a museum, you see so few metal objects because they're
Yeah,
just turned into dust. And
that's precisely true. I mean, if you see any of them, it's because they were in an environment that didn't have any water,
yeah, the
like in
desert or
the
something.
Egyptian desert or something like that. I mean, you
And
imagine trying to keep if the Dead Sea Scrolls had been thrown in a cave in England, they would have never found anything but dust. It, the environment in most of the world is so bad on things you're trying to preserve that technology like StrikeHold has in its chemical compound is just critical. It's if you want a future or something, it's like the picture right now on my screen is a tractor. I expect you that tractor with all its gear and everything is a $500,000 item. Okay, $500,000, and some poor farmers out there dragging this thing around, and it's getting water on it. It's getting salt from all the fertilizers and things, getting all these complex salts on there and nitrates, and it's corroding while you look at it. And the electrical components on these types of devices now are just everywhere. Yeah, and if you got a limit switch that's not working on that tractor, it may as well have a flat tire. It can't go anywhere till that switch is fixed. So it's just bottom line spraying all that electrical gear down on combines and fertilizer application sprayers and that type of thing. It just gets production way up because it doesn't break down because of the corrosion. We're selling it to people that make agricultural airplanes, crop dusters. So that's the second of our two aircraft manufacturers that are using it on almost everything. I mean, know it or not, the biggest uh, problem that people have or challenge with aircraft is corrosion. Let's just say the military aircraft, there's helicopters, especially the Marines. We started selling them a long time ago, but the Marine Corps goes out on these carriers, the helicopter carriers. They're in the worst environment you can think of. Every time it hits a wave, some of the spray comes across the deck there, and it's salt water. You're putting salt water on tens of millions of dollars worth of helicopter equipment. And the landing gear, even though it's titanium, has a rust component around it. And they spray this StrikeHold on all the weapons and on the landing gear and other parts of the rotary wing aircraft that are critical for corrosion. They love it. They absolutely love it.
That's right.
Uh, Mall Air, same way. They put it on everything.
And I've noticed with a lot of guys, they have their old tools. Older tools seem to be heavier, better quality. The newer ones are so expensive and not even always good quality. So men are trying to do everything they can to keep their old tools in good shape. Even a rifle from the 1960s or 1970s is more highly prized than a modern rifle of a similar
Oh
price.
yeah, yeah. He has some of these pre-64 Winchester
Yeah,
bolt action rifles. You got to know somebody that died and left one to you.
yeah, they're not easy to
Yeah,
get.
that you can't find them. You can't get that kind of thing. And again, it goes back to once they take them out of the Cosmoline and start using them, uh, corrosion becomes an issue. It's just that simple. We have a lot of people in sporting clays these days that use our product on the shotguns, and they're talking about shotguns that they pay 25,000 dollars for and up. So I mean, they're serious about those firearms and keeping them in good shape. We have one guy that shoots sporting clays. His name's Jack Clower, and Jack's a hoot. I love him to death. But he'll put StrikeHold on all of his shotguns, and his daughter Gracie shoots, and they'll go out there when it starts raining on them out in the course and everything. The water will be pouring off of a tent they're standing in. He'll take his $25,000 shotgun and just stand there and put it under the water. Open it up and let the water run down the barrel and all this stuff. And all these guys are standing around there looking at him like, "You got to be crazy." He said, I got StrikeHold on this. Not going to hurt it at all. Oh, let me have some of that stuff, so they get on board. It really does trickle out to a lot of different people. The thing we need more of is dealers, really, because people constantly calling us, asking us, is there somebody in my area I can go and buy from? So
That's right. Well,
yeah.
good. No,
But
that's
when
it.
you get somebody in there to buy some StrikeHold and you're some kind of a dealer, whether it be guns or anything else, they're not going to just walk in there and buy a can of StrikeHold and walk out. You're going to buy other gear, other things. You make a contact. It's at that point, it's up to you as in your customer service and your marketing ability to deal with that customer. We can get him in the door for you, but you're going to have to come up with a plan for turning them into a regular client.
That's right.
Hear
No,
them ring.
that's right. Thank you. And
Yeah.
so that's it, guys. In a nutshell, we want you to learn about our product, to see how it's being used. Go on our website, look at reviews. We've got a YouTube channel full of reviews, a Facebook page that has an active community of people who use our product. And as Bobby said earlier, we never had a big $1 million TV marketing campaign. We never had a celebrity sponsor. This is all word of mouth. This has all been done at a real, genuine grassroots level. So we're proud to be a veteran-founded company that men and women, working men and women, the people who actually work with their hands, are using this stuff. So that's why it's such a great product and company.
That's where the name came from. It's one of the mottos of the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment is strike and hold, and that's where the name came from.
That's right. So strike that rust and hold on to the barrel. It'll that's good. I've found in my own personal use, I've got an off-grid farm. Nothing lasts longer than StrikeHold. Nothing holds on longer. Nothing else can remain almost like a non-stick. Every other product I've used gets sticky and tacky. It evaporates in places you don't want it. It settles and pools and collects in areas that you don't want. And even when you do put it on, it's greasy. Well, StrikeHold is
Mhm.
not greasy. As soon as it dries up, you don't even know it's there. So
Yep.
perfect for your concealed carry. Well, that's all I have for you today.